Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Monica Ortiz Uribe. New Mexico is a state full of hidden treasures. To find them, be prepared to set out on a lonely stretch of highway without an agenda. That's how lots of people stumble on a place called Pie-town. That's right, Pie-town. For a long time, there was no pie in Pie-town, but my guest today helped change that. And lately, Pie-town, New Mexico is getting some serious outside recognition. So I'd like to welcome to the show today, Kathy Knapp. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good, Monica. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, I am so excited to have you on the show. I am excited about this place called Pie-town. But first, tell us, where is Pie-town and how did it get its name?
Pie-town is on the top of the Continental Divide, southwestern New Mexico, Highway 60. We call it the Pieway.
The Pieway.
It is about 150 miles south and west of Albuquerque. And I believe it got its name when the mass migration of refugees from the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, Texas, Oklahoma, those people were going to California. I'm pretty sure from the stories I've heard, groups of people would travel and then stop and not travel any further, and one of the places they stopped was the top of the Continental Divide. Maybe they liked the view, I don't know. And some enterprising gentleman started baking pies. His name was Ed Jones. And he would peddle them on the side of the road to the other people coming and going, because many people went to California and then decided to go back home. There was a steady stream of people, and I can imagine a piece of homemade pie was a little bit of home.
And they decided, why go any further, maybe?
I think organically it grew, and they had pinto beans and dried apples, and they made a lot of pinto bean pie, which if you put enough sugar in it, it kind of tastes like pumpkin. And then your dried apple pie, you could just reconstitute it and make apple pies. So I think it became known as the place going west where you get pie.
And they just named it simply for that.
I believe when they were deemed a town and the government said, stay there, we'll get you a post office, we'll get you schools, teachers. They didn't want these people that were already surviving. They were self-sufficient. They didn't want them leaving. They said, we'll give you everything you need, pick a name. And I believe the government was not happy with Pie-town. They asked them to pick a real name. I'm pretty sure they shot back a letter saying it is a real name.
They refused, and it stuck.
Yes, a hardy crew.
So then tell me, how did you discover Pie-town?
It was a family road trip. You know, if you can get in your car with your family and take off to the desert southwest from somewhere like Chicago, where I grew up, you can see incredible things you'll never see in the cities. And my mother and my daughter and my ex-husband and his family were all on a major road trip in 1995. And we saw the sign for Pie-town, and my mother said, we have to stop. And so we wanted pie in Pie-town. And it was a defunct, dusty, closed down trading post. So we didn't get pie. We didn't get pie in Pie-town.
So, I mean, what was everyone's reaction after that?
Oh, I can't say those words. I mean, not on TV. My mother was crestfallen. She was so upset that there could be a town famous for pie and no one was making pie. I heard for 750 miles how wrong it was. It was un-American that she would put the pie back in Pie-town.
So when you heard that, what did you think for 700 and some miles?
I thought, aha, I can move to New Mexico with my mom and she can make pies. I was a photographer and I really, really loved New Mexico. I'd been coming for years. And I thought, what if Mom starts baking pies in Pie-town and I take pictures?
There's
So
an idea.
the light bulb went on. We got back to Dallas, and my ex-husband and I said, "Are you serious? Would you bake pie in Pie-town?" And she said, "Let me at it." Before we had a contract with the real estate agent, she had moved in. I mean, I was like, "Mom, I don't have the key yet." And she was there with a U-Haul with all the furniture and restaurant equipment you could ever want. And I had like 3 bankers turn me down for a loan. They were like, "You want what?" for what? Where? And they were all like, "No, no, no." And finally I found a small 3rd-generation banker in Socorro. And he said, "You tell your mom to start baking. We used to go there when I was a kid."
Wow. You're trying to do this all the way from Dallas. You're living in Dallas.
I was financing this from Dallas, yes. My mother moved from California. My daughter moved from Chicago. And I eventually moved from Dallas.
Wow, wow. And so what was it about pies and your mother?
My mother had baked pies with her mother. My grandmother, Grandma Rosie, she had a cafe in rural Illinois called the Cozy Corner Cafe, and my mother was a pie baker there. And I remember growing up thinking everyone's mom and grandma made pies all the time, because my grandmother also took in boarders to make extra money, seasonal workers, agricultural workers. And so there were pies cooling at Grandma's house and pies at the restaurant, and I just thought everyone's grandmas and moms made pies.
Don't we all? Or at least wish it was that way. And so you find the financing, you take the U-Haul to Pie-town, and then what?
My mom just made pies, and she went crazy. She wanted to, all of a sudden, out of the blue, she said, "You know, we need to feed people, and so I want to start doing breakfast, and I want to start doing lunch, and I want to start doing dinner." And I said, "Mom, coffee and pie, it's simple." Next thing I knew, she had a blue plate special 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She went crazy. And she pretty much wore herself out. She wanted to feed everybody all the time.
Did people show up?
I mean,
we're
the locals. There's a handful of locals that loved it.
How many people?
You know,
are we
they
talking
say
about?
there's 60 people more or less in a 20-mile radius.
60 people.
And those people didn't have a lot of money to eat out. And so my mother had some tourists that would stop by out of curiosity. Mostly the locals would save up all their money and come in once a week for a special. Either the enchilada plate or the meatloaf. They had their nights they came and had their special dinner. It was pretty much a non-profit organization, yeah.
So how long did your mother do this?
About 2.5 years.
Yeah.
She would have kept doing it, except that at 8,000 feet she couldn't breathe. She started turning the color of your dress. And we were not sure what to do, because we took her to different doctors and said, "What do we do?" And they all said she has to leave. And she was determined not to leave, and so she...
How old was she?
She was in her late 50s. She was in pretty good health, but she had emphysema and we didn't know it. We brought her from sea level to the top of the Continental Divide. And a lot of people who come from sea level to Pie-town have trouble breathing. They have to get acclimated. But if your lungs are already damaged, it's impossible. So because my mother would not give up, she went and purchased oxygen. She had oxygen bottles delivered.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of crazy. And
She was determined.
I was pretty
gung-ho.
sure she was going to blow the place up. So I put my foot down and I said, "Mom, you can't do this anymore." And it was very sad. It was one of those things you go, well, now what do we do?
Exactly.
There's not a lot of pie bakers running around looking for a job in Pie-town.
And you had made this big investment already.
Well, yeah, the money was already spent, and there are many people that bake pies in Pie-town, but none of them really want to go to work. They have other jobs. They're school bus drivers, and they're well drillers, and they have their own businesses. So I couldn't exactly go pick another pie baker.
Mm-hmm. And so then, what did you do?
I had to learn how to make pie.
You had to learn how to make
I had a choice to put a for sale sign on the building
Mm-hmm.
and go back to what I knew, which was business and advertising, or learn how to bake pies and try to walk in my mother's shoes.
And what made you think that you should do that versus putting up the for sale sign or trying to find someone else to hire?
Because my mother had invested everything in making it work. She took something that was defunct and turned it into a successful business. And yes, I had financed it, but she had put her elbow grease into it. And I felt her legacy needed to be honored. And I didn't think I could do it, but I didn't think I couldn't do it. And I figured if I don't try, I'll never know. So I went out on a limb, and it caused a divorce, and it caused a lot of economic, crises, and
probably emotional and mental and physical. You said you didn't know how to bake pies.
It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever done, but I knew if I could pick up the phone and call my mother, she would tell me it would be all right, and no, don't do this, do that, and if you want the lemon meringue, to have a fluffy meringue, then this is what you do. And what did I have to lose? What did I have to lose? The worst that could happen is it didn't work. I tucked my tail between my legs and I went back to, business in America, and I could do that. But the pie thing, it was a challenge. It was like, I'm not sure I can make pie. Maybe I can. Maybe my mom can talk me through it on the phone. I hadn't paid a lot of attention because she did it all. She did all the pies and all the food. She was the queen of the kitchen, and I just watched. She'd have me stir. She'd say, go get this, go get that, keep stirring, but I never really made the pie.
And so describe those first attempts at making pie and how you eventually came to, I'm guessing, fall in love with making pie.
I think when your back's up against a wall and you've thrown everything at something, whatever it is, you just convince yourself you can do it, and when it doesn't work, you call in the dogs. That's why everyone has dogs. And the dogs are glad to eat the messes, and you just keep trying, and you don't show anyone the ones that don't work, you just show off the ones that come out pretty, and eventually you start believing you can do it.
And so how did it turn out for you? Tell me what is the pie shop like now?
Oh, the Pie-o-neer is a magical place. I have invested a lot of energy into finding the right people, and the universe has supplied me with the right partner, and I have a wonderful crew of just a few people, of friends. And we go in and we make beautiful pie, and we have a couple healthy things to eat, and we're all musically inclined, so when we're not busy, we have fun. We are very, very determined to have the best pie we can provide, but it's still just pie. It is not like French pastry. It's pie. It's Pie Town pie, and it's real food made by real people, one at a time, the old-fashioned way, with just fruit and a little sugar and lots of butter. And people, I think they come in and they don't know what to expect because it's very rural. And when they have this lovely homemade piece of pie, and we're normal, nice people, and we ask them who they are and where they're from, and we're genuinely curious because they are our entertainment, I think they have a wonderful kind of a cyclical energy thing going on, where we get something that they bring us and we give them something they hadn't expected, or maybe they expected it but they didn't expect it to be so good. And
so who are the customers? Who shows up in Pie Town? And
everyone.
Give me some examples of some customers you've had.
Well, we have lots of snowbirds, all of the people who leave the North Country to go to Arizona for the winter. They want a piece of pie in Pie Town on their way and on their way back. We have a lot of Continental Divide hikers and bikers and horseback riders. We're at an intersection. Highway 60 goes east and west, and the Continental Divide goes north and south, and we sit right at the intersection of pie and life. So our door, everyone comes through our door by default because they need a bathroom or something to eat, or they're curious. I get travelers that have traveled all over the world, and they just are on their way to the Grand Canyon or to California, to Disneyland, and they say, look, it's Pie Town. We have to get a piece of pie and pie, just like we did.
Right.
So everyone comes to Pie Town. It's crazy.
And it's out of the way. These are people that are specifically taking the scenic route, and maybe they're taking their time and making stops. Is that the case?
I get travelers who are looking for an authentic experience, not just to get there. If they're going to go in a hurry, they're going to stay on the interstates. But when they discover there's this little 2-lane blacktop and it goes pretty much to Santa Monica, they can get to where they're going, and they can take their time, and they can get out and stop and stretch their legs. And every 30 miles, 60 miles, there's a little town, a little history. And I think that they're on a different kind of trip. They're on a vacation to experience something, as opposed to, let's get to Disneyland and do everything and get home. Right. Their journey is part of the vacation.
And you're a spot on that journey.
We are. We're a curiosity.
Wow. So tell me about the crew that you say you've got a small but crucial crew at the pie shop.
Pie Town has always been a crazy place to run a business because there are literally almost no people to work. If I could get someone from the next town, Daddle, 22 miles that way, or Quemado, 22 miles that way, I'd have to pay them to drive in. You know, it's kind of a crazy location. So I have recruited people specifically online and friends who have moved there. And we have a very unique cast of characters. It's almost like theater. When we walk in the pie shop in the morning and turn all the machines on, and we start making food and having fun, and the people start coming in, it feels a lot like a circus.
Oh yeah.
We're like a 3-ring circus. and you know, the pie plates are in the air, and people are coming and going and eating pie and talking to total strangers. And my crew, they're just the best. I have great helpers. I mean, they make me look good.
And so then, what is it about the pie? It sounds like the pie is something that gets people together, that creates a gathering, that makes people happy. What is it about pie?
I don't know, Monica. I try to figure it out all the time, and I'm always surprised. I ask people, why are you here? Well, we want pie in Pie Town. And it's curious to me that we can stay in such a small, remote area and make a living. We're not getting rich, but we're making a living off of a simple pie. It's a few ingredients that, you know, it's flour and it's butter and it's fruit, and it's so simple, it escapes me. It does. I am always amazed and grateful that so many people like pie.
Well, it's certainly gotten a lot of attention, and I want to talk a little bit about that. There's now a documentary called The Pie Lady of Pie Town, and I understand you are the star of that documentary.
That's what they say. It's kind of curious too. Many people come to Pie Town and say, oh, this is so cool. We're going to write a story, or we're going to do a little film. Most of the people, once they discover the location's a nightmare, we don't hear from them again. But there is a really, really talented photographer in Santa Fe named Jane Rosemont. And she is a fan of pie. And she decided she was going to make her segue into film with pie and Pie Town. And you know, I don't think she really knew what she was getting into. And after a couple years, she called me one day and she said, I think I've discovered what this is going to be about. And I'm like, well, isn't it about the pie? And she said, yes and no. It's about mom. It's about how moms and that can-do spirit, everyone relates to it. And yes, the pie is the vehicle. It is definitely how you're here and why you're here. But the people that come in here are looking not just for a piece of pie, but maybe for a little trip down memory lane, a little nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Mom, grandma, a favorite aunt or uncle, somebody made them a pie once, and they want that feeling again. And Jane captured that in 30 minutes. She did a beautiful homage to pies and moms and love.
And so you've taken this documentary on the road?
It's crazy. Jane and I are traveling. It's quite the spectacle. We take all the pie stuff and we go to film festivals. There are film festivals all over the world. We've only been able to make a few, and they've been fun, they've been interesting. When you say pie, people are always like, where's the pie? So we bring pie to some of the festivals, the close ones, the ones we can get to. But Jane has produced such a beautiful little story that it's won lots of awards and laurels and things I don't even understand in the film industry that says she touched on something that is meaningful. Her story and my mother's story and Pie Town's story is not just a curiosity, but it's everyone's story.
And so if people want to see this, do we have to go to end up at a film festival, or how, is there a way to see the documentary?
I believe Jane Rosemont, once she's done with the film festival circuit, we'll have a distributor and we'll put the DVD out for sale. And it can probably be found, the information, it can be found at her website, which is pieladyofpietown.com.
That's exciting, that's exciting.
It's
So,
very
and another exciting, perhaps rumor I hear is something about a cookbook?
After 20 years, I am finally writing down some recipes and telling some little stories about this incredible trip. And I have a potential publisher, and we're talking about, a year and a half down the road, there will be a little book with some stories and recipes from Pie Town.
Wow. Well, I wish you good luck on that.
Thank you.
one.
It's exciting.
So let's talk about the pie. What kind of pies do you bake? What is your range of pies?
Well, every morning we start out with the classics. You have to have several versions of apple because it's America.
Yeah, I hear you make a very special kind of apple pie.
Well, it's New Mexico, and so if you have ingredients that are indigenous to New Mexico all the time in the kitchen, they're going to end up in a pie. So we do make apple pie with green chili and piño. It's called New Mexico apple pie. It's got a kick.
It's like sweet and savory.
It is. It's curious. And a lot of people fall in love with it. They just get that apple and that chili, and then you get that sweet pine nut. And it's an explosion of flavor in your mouth. And one of my other favorites is a red chili chocolate.
Oh, I love chocolate.
Does it get any better than
Kathy?
red chili and chocolate?
I love chocolate.
They're health foods.
Yeah, happy foods.
Happy health foods. So we make several versions of apple because not everyone wants chili in their pies. So we'll have your apple cranberry crumb, cherries, blueberries. The crazy part about making pie in Pie Town is there are no stores.
So how do you do it?
There are no orchards. And because we won't open a can or put any preservatives in our pies, I have had to source frozen fruits, the best frozen fruits I can get shipped in from Oregon, peaches from Utah. It's been a learning curve to find ingredients that are healthy and fresh and get them in pies. That's the craziest part of doing pie in Pie Town.
Is there a favorite part when you think about the process of baking pies? Do you have a favorite part?
That's an interesting question. I love making pies. I think it's the tactile experience of when you put the ingredients together and you start touching it, you know just when to stop touching it. It's not bread, you're not kneading it. It's pastry, and you want it to be as light and flaky as possible. So it's that knowing after certain hundreds, thousands of pies, stop touching it, put it in the pan, fill it, put it in the oven. Every day it's different. Every day the humidity is different, the wind is different, barometric pressure is different. You know, one day you're going to make pie crust and it's going to take a lot of water, and the next day it's going to take not as much. And that's a learning curve that keeps it challenging.
Wow, this sounds like an art that you're describing, art-science mixture.
Yes. It's alchemy of pie. It's never dull. It's never the same. You would think, how could you make pie every day, all day? But think about it. Everyone is like a creation all its own. They each get their own little tops. Cherries get hearts. Blueberries get stars for our New Mexico Starry Night. The peaches get lattice. It is an art form.
Well, I don't know about you, but I cannot hear more about pie without actually trying one. And you actually brought us a pie.
I did.
So we're going to end up the show by bringing out this pie, and you tell us what it is.
This is one of our most requested pies. I think it's because it's sweet and it's tart.
Okay, okay. So we're going to quickly here. Shall you do the honors here? Okay.
This is called apple cranberry crumb. Let me see if it'll hold
cranberry
together.
crumb.
It's
Excellent.
just apples and cranberries and a buttercrumb topping.
Okay, okay.
You have to cut two, Monica, or they won't
two.
come out right.
Okay, okay. Here she
Are
goes.
you ready?
She's an expert. Here we go. Fantastic. Look at that. All right. I'm going to take a bite. And, it's warm.
Just came out of the oven.
Fantastic. Well, I hope this will entice our viewers to take a journey out on Highway 60 to Pie Town. It's worth it. This has been Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Monica Ortiz Uribe.
Thank you, ma'am.